Hello students, welcome to this session. So in this session, we will cover the concept of aggregate functions in SQL. So to start with, what is the definition? So definition for an aggregate function. So what is an aggregate function? So your aggregate function performs a calculation on the set of values and return a single value. So what is the input to an aggregate function? So you are going to give some set of values. So set of values. So here the set of values is nothing but some set of records. So the how you are going to store, how you are going to refer the data that is available inside the table. So the data is stored in the form of a record. So your table consists of various records. So now the objective of this aggregate function is to do some computation on these records. So it is going to perform a calculation on a set of values, and what is the output? Always your aggregate function is going to return only a single value. So your aggregate function is going to accept a set or multiple records as an input, and what it is going to return? It is going to return only a single value as an output. So your count is an example for an aggregate function. So you are having various aggregate functions that I will list in the next slide. So count is an example for an aggregate function. So all the other functions will ignore the null values. So it is not going to consider the null values. So your count will consider the null value. All the other aggregate functions will ignore the null values. So usually this aggregate function is used with group by. So we are having a class called as group by class. So this group by class will be used along with the selector command. Okay. So these aggregate functions are said to be deterministic. So what is the meaning for this term deterministic? So if you are going to execute, or if you are going to use the same function again and again with the same set of input, the output generated by the function is going to be static, or it is going to be the same. So if you see the explanation, so your aggregate function returns the same value. So it is going to return the same value. For each and every time, it is going to return the same value when you are going to invoke the aggregate function with a set of input values. So for that particular input set, if you are going to invoke the function again and again, it is going to return the what? It is going to return the same result. So for each and every invocation, it is not going to give you the separate result, or it is not going to give you the different result. So the function for the same set of input, it is going to generate the same result. So these are the various aggregate functions available in SQL. So first function, name of the first function is count. Second function is sum. Third function is average. So fourth function is minimum, and fifth function is the maximum. So what is the objective behind this count function, or when to use this count function? Suppose you assume that you are having a table. So now you consider this example. So now I am having a table, and the name of the table is employee. So inside this table, I have stored the information related to employees. So inside this table, I am having how many fields? I am having 3 fields, or I am having 3 columns. So for name of the first column is employee ID, and name of the second column is employee name, and name of the third column is salary. So inside this employee table, I have stored the information about employee ID, name, and salary of each and every employee. So how many records? So the thing is, so this row, okay, so each and every row, how you are going to refer? Each and every row is called as a tuple, or you are going to refer each and every row as a record. So I have inserted how many records? So as of now, I am having 6 records stored inside the table called as employee. So now suppose, for example, So if you take the first employee, the employee ID is 101. What is the name? Name is Arun. What is the salary? Salary is 4,000. Now, if you take the last employee, employee ID is 106. For this salary column, the value is updated as null. Okay. So, currently the salary for that particular employee is not known or it is unknown. So, the thing is, so if the value is unknown, so in SQL, what we can do is you can use the keyword called as null. Okay. So, whenever you are going to use null, it does not represent the value as 0, or if it is going to be the character data type, it does not represent the blank space. So, it represents what? It is unknown. Currently, it is not known. So, to demonstrate the various aggregate functions, so this is the table we are going to use. So, what is the first function? First function is the count function. Now, suppose what is the requirement is, now suppose you want to retrieve the total number of records in the employee table. So, where you want to retrieve the total number of records from the employee table. So, for example, so I want to retrieve the information about the employee who is getting the maximum salary and who is getting the minimum salary. And I want to count the total salary paid to all the employees. So, for that you can use the function called as sum. And to retrieve the average salary, you can use the function called as AVG. So, that is the idea behind the various aggregate function. So, to retrieve the total number of records or to count the total number of records in a given table, what is the function you have to use? You can use the function called as count. So, count function is used to retrieve the total number of records in a given table, or it is used to count the total number of records in a given table. So, what is the uniqueness with respect to this count function is you can use this count function with both numeric data type as well as the non-numeric data type. Okay, so non-numeric data type means, suppose if you are going to use, so in the previous case, so in the employee table name, so what is the data type? So, the data type for this employee table is var character. So, for example, var character of 13. So, this may be what? So, for employee ID, so the data type may be number of 10. So, this is the numeric data type. Okay, so and this is an example for a non-numeric data type. So, with respect to this count function, you can apply the count function on both numeric data type as well as on the non-numeric data type. So, what is the use of this count function? Your count function returns the total number of records in a given table. So, you can use the count function in two different ways. So, this is an example for a generic option. So, one is count within bracket you can give star. Another one is count within bracket I can give a particular column name or field name. Okay. So, for example, I can write a count of salary. Okay. So, now what is the uniqueness with respect to this syntax or this version is, if you are going to use this version, it considers both duplicate value as well as the null value. So, if you want to skip the null value or if you want to skip the duplicate value, we need to go to what? We need to go to the other version of the count command, count function. Okay. So, what is the syntax you have to, what is the syntax you have? Okay. So, what is the syntax for the count command? So, count is a function. So, it returns the total number of records in a given table. Now, what is my aim or what is my requirement? I am having a table called as employee. From the employee table, I want to retrieve all the records, or I want to count I don't want to retrieve all the records, I want to count the total number of records in the employee table. So, you can invoke the SQL editor, and in the SQL editor, if you need to use this command, you need to use this select command. So, you need to use the keyword called as select. So, what I need is, I want to count the total number of records in the employee table. So, select count star from. So, from is a keyword, select is a keyword. So, from, what is the table name? Table name is going to be employee. So, you need to terminate with a line terminating character, that is semicolon, and then if you press enter, so it gives you in the next line it displays the output. That is, if you don't have any syntax error, it gives you the output. So now in this case, what does this 6 indicates? 6 indicates the total number of records. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so totally how many records you have in the employee table? I have 6 records. So if you execute a command like this, so select the count of star from employee, it retrieves the total number of records. So what is the thing you need to notice? It includes what? It includes duplicate as well as the null values. So if you check here, see, for the last thing you are having a null value. So you are having for 2 employees, so the salary field you are having 2 values. So 6,000 is repeated twice. So it will include count of star includes both duplicate as well as null values. So next one is, I don't want to include null value. Okay, so in the input for a particular column, if you are going to have some null, so I want to retrieve all the non-null. I want to count the total number of non-null values that is available in the table. So you need to invoke the count function with a particular field name. So your salary is the column name or the field name that is available in the table called as what? That is available in your employee table. So what is the syntax you have to use? Count. So this function, so you need to write. So what is the syntax command you have to use? Select count of salary. Okay, I am going to apply the count function on the field called as salary. So select count of salary from what is the table name? Table name is employee. So select count of salary from employee. Now you can visualize the difference. If you see the output, so for the previous command, so the output given by the system is 6. Now the output is 5. So what is the reason? So if you are going to use this version, of count, it will skip the null values. So here you are having one record with the null value. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So count is going to be what? 5. Okay, so that is the second version of count. Now, so you can use this count to count the distinct records that is available in that particular table. So if you don't want to if you want to retrieve the distinct values, you want to retrieve the records with the distinct values, so you can use this version. So you can prefix the column name with the keyword called as distinct. So what is the use of this keyword distinct? It is used to remove the duplicate values from the column called as salary. So this version of count returns the number of, see here, distinct non-null values or distinct non-null values on the column called as what? From the column called as salary. So see the variation in the syntax. Okay, so if you see the previous syntax, so select the count within bracket, directly we have given the field name. Now I want to retrieve only I want to count the total number of records with the distinct values. So what is the syntax you have to use? Select count is the function. So I am going to apply the count function on the field called as salary. So in the salary, I want to count the total number of distinct records. So you prefix this with the keyword called as distinct. So from where I am going to extract? I am going to extract from the employee table. Now you can visualize the difference. If you see the output, so the output given by the system is 4. Okay. So what is the reason? Because in the employee table, you are having 2 employees with the same salary called as 6,000. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so this is the duplicate value and this is the null value. So these 2 records will be skipped. So in your output, so what is the output? So your output is going to be 4. So I have demonstrated how to use this count function in 3 different ways. So the first option is, if you use select, so to retrieve the total number of records from a given table including the duplicate and null values, you will need to use the first version. You can use this first version. So I want to retain the duplicate values, but I want to exclude the null values. You can go for this second version. So in the third version, I want to remove the null values as well as the duplicate values. You can use this third version. Okay. So the next function in the next aggregate function is sum. So now you are again, if you take the employee table, so I am having a column called as salary. Now what I need is I want to compute the total salary paid to all the employees. So for that, what I can do is I can use the function called as what? I can use the function called as sum. So what is the purpose of this sum function? So your sum function is used to calculate the sum of all the values in a selected column. Now suppose for example, what is the column you are going to use is salary, because what I need, I want to compute the sum of salary paid to all the employees. So I can use the function called as what? I can use the function called as sum function. So in what way this function differs from your previous count function? If you see the next point, you can use sum function only with the numeric input. So I cannot use the sum function on a non-numeric field. In that case, it will throw you an error. Okay. So now in the employee table, we are having one column called as salary. Now, if I want to retrieve sum of all not null values in the column salary, what is the syntax I can use is, so select, so what is the function, what is the aggregate function I am going to use? Sum. So I am going to apply this function sum on the field name called as salary. So this is from the employee table. So select and from are the keywords. So select sum of salary from table name is employee. So once you press enter, so the output given by the system is 31,000. Okay. So another point what you need to notice. So again, it skipped the what? It skipped the null values. Sum of all not null values available in the field name called as salary. So this is the purpose of the function called as sum. So next function is AVG. So your third aggregate function is AVG. So again, now my requirement is, so you want to compute you want to calculate the average value. So to compute or to calculate the average value on a particular column, you can use the function called as what? You can use the function called as AVG function. So again, your similarity with your sum is your AVG function returns the average of all not null values. So how to compute the average? So so the thing is what? So now you know how to compute the sum, and you know how to compute the total number of records. So sum of salary divided by count of salary will give you the what? It will give you the average salary of all the employees. So 31,000 divided by 5. So how to write a query for that particular statement? So select. So AVG. So what is the function I am going to use? I am going to use the function called as AVG. I am going to apply this function on the field name called as salary. So select AVG of salary, or select average of salary from employee. So from the table name called as employee. So what is the output? Output is 6,200. So 31,000 divided by 5, your output is 31,000 divided by 5. So the output given by the system is 6,200. So the next function is minimum function. So now I want to retrieve the information about the employee who is having the lowest, or who is receiving the minimum salary. Or suppose you assume that you are having a table called as student. So I have stored the information about the marks secured by each and every student in the student table. Now I want to retrieve the student information who have secured the maximum marks, and at the same time I want to display the student who have got the minimum mark in a particular subject. So to retrieve the maximum mark, you can use the function called as max, and to retrieve the minimum marks, you can use the function called as min. So what is the use of this min function? So your min function is used to find the minimum value in a certain column. So this function determines the smallest value. So in a given set, suppose if you take our employee table, how many records you are having? You are having 6 records. If you are going to apply this min function on the salary field, so what it will return in the salary field, which row is having the smallest value, or so the smallest value from the salary field can be retrieved using the function called as min function. So min of salary. Okay. So again, it won't consider the null value. So what is the command you have to use? The command is, so select min of salary from employee. MIN stands for minimum. So from the employee table, from the salary column, I want to retrieve the record with the minimum value. So once you press enter, the output given by the system is 4000. Okay. So the next function is the maximum function, as I have mentioned in the previous slide. So the maximum function is used to find the maximum value. So in a given column, if you want to retrieve the maximum value, you can use the function called as what? You can use the function called as max. So maximum function is used to determine the what? Is used to determine the largest value of all the selected values of a particular column. So what is the syntax you have to use? Max of salary. So you are going to apply the maximum function on the salary field. So what is the command you have to use to retrieve the, so now I want to retrieve the information about the employee who got maximum salary. So select max of salary from employee. So select max of salary from employee. Okay, so the output given by the system is 8000. Now suppose here, so from the salary column, you want to retrieve what? You want to retrieve the, what is the maximum salary available in that particular column. So what is the command you have to use? Select max of salary from employee. So this is the syntax what you have to use. Okay. So next is, what is the other option you can have is, so in a single command, it is possible for you to use more than one aggregate function. Now suppose I want to retrieve the minimum value and maximum value using a single command. So there is no need to write two separate SQL commands. So you can combine more than one aggregate function in a single command. So if I want to retrieve both the minimum salary as well as the maximum salary from the employee table, so I can write a SQL query like this. So select min of salary, comma, max of salary from employee. So from the employee table, if you want to retrieve the minimum salary and maximum salary using a single command, you can use this syntax. So the caption is going to be what? A column heading is going to be min salary and second column heading is going to be max salary. So what is the minimum value and what is the maximum? What is the minimum salary and what is the maximum salary? Now suppose here I don't want this caption as min salary. I want this as the smallest. And for this second column, I need the caption as what? The largest. So what you can do is, you can use the concept called as alias concept. So you can modify the query like this. So select min salary. What is the new name? My new name is going to be smallest, comma. Then what is the next one is max of salary. And what is the column name? I want the column name is largest from employee. So this is going to be your command. So by default here you are retrieving a value and you are not going to have a proper column name. So in that case, your function name itself will be used as the column name. So if you want to use a separate, if you want to rename, okay, so this will not be this smallest and largest will be used only for the display purpose. So you are not going to modify or you are not going to rename the column in the permanently in the table. So these smallest and largest will be used only for the display purpose. And so with respect to this AVG, at the time of explaining the AVG function, so you are having one constraint associated with this AVG function. So what is the constraint is, you cannot, so this AVG function will work only with the numeric field. So you may ask a question, suppose if you are going to apply this AVG function to a non-numeric field, so what will be the output? So in that case, if you are going to write select AVG of name, okay. So that from the, suppose you assume that you are having a table called a student, or suppose you remove the student. Suppose here I am having a table called as employee. So in the from the employee table, if I am going to apply this AVG function on the field called as name, what is the output? So select AVG of name from student. Once you press enter, you can see the message, you can see the error message given by the system. You are having a error at line number 1. So I think you are aware of this information. So in Oracle, each and every error is going to have a error number, ORA-sum. So 01722. So this error number is corresponding to this error message, invalid number. So you are trying to apply this AVG on a AVG function on a non-numeric field. So it won't work. It will show you an error message like this. Okay. So as a summary of today's session, so I have started this today's session with the definition for an aggregate function. So in SQL, what is the use of this aggregate function? So you can use this aggregate function along with your group by. Okay, so that is the major use of this aggregate function. So these are the aggregate functions available in SQL: count, sum, AVG, min, and the max. So to retrieve the total number of records or to count the total number of records in a given table, you can use the function called as count. So in a table, you are going to have some column. So in a single column, you want to find the sum of all the values of a given column, average of values pertaining to a particular column, what is the minimum value in that column and what is the maximum value in that column. You can use this function as what? Sum, AVG, min, and so as an acknowledgement, so for preparing this presentation, I have referred these online resources. Or if you want to explore further or for additional information, what you can do is you can refer these websites. Okay. Thank you.